Hey team, welcome back to the Wilson Combat Channel. My name is Massad Ayoob. I've been teaching use of force, and specifically judicious use of lethal force, since 1972. And for that reason, I've been asked to address the topic today of disparity of force. It is perhaps the most misunderstood and least understood element in the use of deadly force in self-defense. Where disparity of force comes in is when you have to use a per se weapon, a knife, a gun like this SFX-9, against an ostensibly unarmed attacker. Now, in just recent years, in very high-profile cases that were televised nationally at trial, we've heard attorneys scream in open court, it can never be self-defense to shoot an unarmed man. And it appalls me that people can get through 3 years of law school and pass a bar exam and be entrusted to run high-profile homicide cases without understanding that concept. Disparity of force, when you're up against the ostensibly unarmed man, means that your attacker's physical abilities are so much greater than yours that if the attack continues, it's likely to cause death or great bodily harm, which is, of course, deadly force. The most obvious elements of that might be multiple assailants. It's only in a Bruce Lee movie that one of you is going to be able to take out 3 or 4 people with your bare hands. In real life, the likelihood of you being killed or crippled in a gang assault is so great that it warrants your recourse to a per se deadly weapon such as this pistol. Another obvious one is significant disparity in size and strength that favors your opponent. The boxing commission does not allow a flyweight to get in the same ring as a heavyweight or a super heavyweight, and there's a very good reason for that. When the punches start being thrown, the stronger man is so likely to severely beat and permanently injure or even kill the opponent that it would not be allowed. The law recognizes the same thing. Other elements of disparity of force would include, often but not always, male versus female. Generally, the law understands that the average man tends to be larger and physically stronger than the average female, and that even if they're the same height, the male will tend to have greater upper body strength. The reason I say it's not an immutable law is that if the male is the 130-pound anorexic junkie and the female is the 250-pound captain of the Russian Olympic female weightlifting team, that disparity of force will not exist. So you have to take it naturally case by case. Another element of disparity of force is known or obvious high skill in unarmed combat on the part of your opponent, the opponent being an illegal assailant. It might be that you happen to know the attacker is a black belt in the martial arts, or once boxed professionally or semi-professionally. You might know that he was trained in the military how to kill an enemy sentry with his bare hands. You may not know any of that, and you often won't. And brief digression, if you find out after the fight that he was a black belt, etc., you can't go, I'm saved. Because under the prevailing Federal Rule of Evidence 404B, if that knowledge was not known to you prior to your use of force, it does not justify your use of force. But even if you don't know what the guy's background was, in the moments prior to the encounter, for example, if you've seen him knock out a couple of 200-pound bouncers with one punch apiece, close enough. It's not only a reasonable presumption, but a reasonable conclusion that this is a man with skills so great in unarmed combat that when those skills are applied aggressively to you, they'll result in death or great bodily harm, that is, crippling injury. Other elements would include the able-bodied attacking the handicapped. And that would be most obvious with the mugger assaulting the paraplegic in the wheelchair, let's say. But it also applies if the handicap has taken place in the course of the instant assault. Perhaps at the beginning of the fight that the other man started, you were equally matched, but he's managed to kick to your kneecap. You're barely able to stay on your feet. You can no longer evade incoming blows, and you can no longer set yourself up for effective counter punches. At that point, recourse to a lethal weapon would be warranted if this vicious attack continues. Another element would be position of disadvantage. A classic example goes back to the state of Texas in the 1990s, right after they passed their first concealed carry law. The first man to use his concealed carry permit in legitimate self-defense was a middle-aged motorist caught up in a road rage incident. He has stopped to speak to the other man, the window was down, and he is seatbelted in his car when the much larger, much stronger, much younger man comes through that window and starts punching him in the head. One of those punches broke his orbital socket. And in desperation, that man reached down, grabbed a .40 caliber Beretta pistol he had in the front seat, fired a shot into his assailant's chest, and the man staggered away, collapsed, and died. When it went to court, that was determined to be a justifiable homicide in self-defense. The reason being, the courts always look at the totality of the circumstances. Seatbelted into that car with both lap belt and shoulder belt, you are restrained as if that man had an accomplice who was pinning your arms so the other bad guy could beat the hell out of you. Sudden movements in that seatbelt will trigger the seatbelt and lock it in place. He was unable to roll with the punches, unable to slip the punches, and his action in shooting the ostensibly unarmed man were justified. It was a classic case. Another case would be if, heck, maybe the opponent's smaller and weaker than you, but he was the one who unlawfully attacked you. He's got you up against the wall and he's banging your head into the brick wall, and you realize if this continues, with each blow you'll be less and less capable of defending yourself. You're likely to suffer permanent brain damage or even death. At that point, disparity of force is kicked in, and your recourse to your sidearm would be warranted. So disparity of force, to recap, is a physical advantage which favors the unarmed attacker who is the initial aggressor and attacking you, or the innocent person you have a right to protect. It is seen as the equivalent of a deadly weapon and warrants your recourse to a deadly weapon in lawful self-defense. Be prepared to explain it. If attorneys who know they're being watched by their peers nationwide can stand in open court and say, against the truth, you can never shoot an unarmed attacker. If that happens with attorneys who've gone through 3 years of law school and passed a bar exam, you know that's going to be a prevailing sentiment among a jury of 12 ordinary people assembled to judge your actions. Be able to articulate it, be able to explain it, be able to get it across to those who judge you. In criminal court, in civil court, and in the third court, we all have to worry about the court of public opinion, the society you and your family have to return to when the aftermath of your use of force is over. I'd like to thank you for tuning into the Wilson Combat Channel. I hope you'll continue. We have a treasure trove of expert commentary and instruction here. And please be sure to hit our comments section. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, and let us know what you would like to see the resident experts at Wilson Combat address for you in the future. Thanks for watching.